All right, let's start with something that's going to completely reshape how you see reality. What if I told you the universe, this massive, seemingly infinite expanse of stars, galaxies, and space, is not eternal? Not only that it can be eternal, this isn't just a wild claim, it's something you can verify with logic, science, and a bit of brutal truth. By the end of this video, you'll see why this matters way more than you think. Let's get into it, okay? So here's the first thing you need to know. For centuries, humans have wondered, did the universe have a beginning? Or has it always been here? I mean, it's a big question, right? If the universe is eternal, it means it's infinite. If it's infinite, it means there's no starting point. And if there's no starting point, you have to ask, how can we even exist now? Stick with me because this gets wild. Here's where things start getting real. Scientists and philosophers used to believe in something called the steady state theory. Basically, they thought the universe was eternal, unchanging, and just there forever. Sounds simple enough, right? But then, boom, science pulled the rug out from under that idea. The discovery of the Big Bang absolutely wrecked the steady-state theory. If the universe exploded into existence at some point, it can't be eternal. It had a beginning. Now, I know what you're thinking, okay, so the Big Bang happened. End of story, right? Nope. Here's where it gets mind-blowing. The Big Bang tells us when the universe started, but it doesn't tell us why it started or even how. And let's be real, if the universe isn't eternal, something had to kick it off. Something outside of it, something bigger. And that's where things get uncomfortable, because it forces us to confront the idea that the universe isn't self-sufficient.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Think about it. If the universe had a starting point, what caused it? Did time exist before the Big Bang? Did space? If not, then what triggered the whole thing? These are the questions that keep physicists and philosophers awake at night. And here's the kicker: every explanation leads to something greater than the universe itself. Let's break this down logically. If the universe is not eternal, there are only two options: one, something caused it, or two, it came from nothing. Now, tell me, does nothing make sense to you? Like literally nothing, no energy, no particles, no laws of physics, just nothing. How does nothing create everything? It doesn't, which means something had to cause the universe. Something outside of space and time. Something eternal. And this isn't just some philosophy class idea. Science backs this up. Have you heard of the second law of thermodynamics? It's one of the most solid principles in physics. It basically says that energy in a closed system becomes less useful over time. Think of a phone battery, it drains until it's dead. The same thing happens in the universe. Stars burn out, heat spreads, energy dissipates. Eventually, the universe will run out of usable energy. Scientists call this the heat death of the universe. Here's the crazy part: if the universe were eternal, it would have already reached this state. It would already be dead, but it's not. That's proof the universe had a beginning, a starting point. And this changes everything. Because if the universe isn't eternal, it means it's not self-sustaining. It's dependent on something that exists outside of it. And that something, that's where the real mystery lies. But let's pause for a second. I want to ask you something. What would it mean for your life if the universe wasn't just a random accident? If it had a purpose? If you had a purpose? Stick around, because in part 2, we're diving into the deeper implications of this truth, and trust me, it's going to get even crazier, all right. If you're still watching, I know this topic has already got your brain spinning. But we're just getting started. Now that we know the universe isn't eternal, we have to ask, what does that mean for us? For you? For everything we think we know about life? Buckle up, because this is the part where things get personal, okay? Here's the deal. If the universe has a beginning, it means everything in it, including you, me, and everyone we know, came into existence for a reason. But here's the catch: if the universe isn't self-sustaining, then neither are we. That's a little unsettling, isn't it? It means we're not as independent as we like to think. It means we're part of a system that's way bigger than us. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, let's talk about time. We think of time as this constant, unchanging thing, right? But here's the weird part: time is tied to space. It's part of the universe itself. Which means before the universe began, there was no time. Think about that. No time. No before, no after, just nothing. Or maybe something outside of time. Something timeless. This is where things get tricky. If the universe had a cause, that cause can't be bound by time. It has to exist outside of it. And that's not just a scientific idea, it's a logical one. Because if the cause of the universe were bound by time, then it would need a cause too. And that would lead to an infinite regress. You'd have cause after cause after cause forever. But infinity doesn't work in the real world. You can't have an infinite chain of events, which means there has to be a first cause, the timeless cause. Now, here's where it gets personal. If there's a timeless cause for the universe, it means everything in the universe, including you, exists because of that cause. And that's a little unsettling, isn't it? It forces us to ask, why am I here? Why do I exist? These aren't just philosophical questions. They're questions that shape how you live your life. Let's get practical. If the universe isn't eternal and you're part of it, then your existence isn't random. It's intentional. And if it's intentional, it means your life has meaning. But here's the catch: if your life has meaning, then you're responsible for what you do with it. That's a lot to take in, right? Most of us go through life thinking we're just here to survive, to make money, to have fun. But if the universe had a beginning, then it's not just about survival. It's about purpose. So let me ask you, what are you doing with your life? Are you just existing? Or are you living for something bigger? These are questions we all need to wrestle with. And in part 3, we're going to explore what this purpose might be and how it could completely shift the way you see reality. Don't miss it. Okay, we've talked about the universe not being eternal. We've talked about what that means for you. Now, it's time to tackle the big question: if the universe has a purpose, what is it? And where do you fit into it? This is where everything comes together, all right. Here's the truth: if the universe has a cause, and you're part of the universe, then you're part of that cause too. You're not just a random collection of atoms. You're here for a reason. The question is, what is that reason? Let's start with something practical. Look at your life right now. Your relationships, your work, your dreams. Are you living in a way that reflects purpose, or are you just going through the motions? If the universe was created for a reason, then it's not just about what you want. It's about what you're meant to do. And here's the crazy part: when you start living with purpose, everything changes. You stop worrying about the little things. You stop comparing yourself to others. You start focusing on what really matters. And that's not just some feel-good idea, it's backed by psychology. People who live with a sense of purpose are happier, healthier, and more fulfilled. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. But let's take it one step further. If the universe has a purpose, it means you're part of something bigger. And that's both exciting and terrifying, because it means your choices matter. What you do with your life matters. The way you treat people matters. It means you have the power to make a difference not just in your own life, but in the lives of others. So here's my challenge to you. What are you going to do with your life? Are you going to keep living like the universe is meaningless? Or are you going to step into your purpose? The choice is yours. But one thing is clear: the universe isn't eternal, and neither are you. So make it count. All right, before we wrap this up, let me leave you with one more thought. If the universe isn't eternal, and if you're part of it, then your time here is limited. But here's the beauty of that: limits create urgency. Limits remind us to act, to live, to make every moment count. So, while the universe may not last forever, what you do in the time you have can echo far beyond you. The question is, what kind of echo are you going to leave? Let's talk about something most people try to avoid: the fact that we all have an expiration date. You, me, everyone you know. Life itself is temporary. But here's the paradox: it's the temporary nature of life that gives it value. Think about it. If the universe and everything in it were eternal, nothing would really matter. There'd be no urgency, no reason to care about anything, no reason to act. It's precisely because time is running out that time is precious. Now let's tie this back to the universe. If the universe had a beginning, if it's not eternal, then it's heading toward an end. Scientists already predict this. Like we mentioned earlier, the second law of thermodynamics tells us the universe will eventually run out of usable energy. Stars will burn out. Galaxies will fade. The universe will go cold and dark. This is called the heat death or entropic death of the universe. And it's not just theory, it's inevitable. But here's the twist: just because the universe is heading toward an end doesn't mean it's meaningless. In fact, it's the opposite. The finite nature of the universe gives every moment within it meaning. It means every action, every choice, every connection matters. It means your life, no matter how small it might feel in the grand cosmic scale, is significant. You're here, alive, in this moment of the universe's history, and that's no accident. So let's get real. What are you doing with your time? Are you chasing things that don't matter? Are you wasting your energy on things that won't outlast you? Or are you investing in things that truly matter, things that last beyond your lifetime? Let me break this down for you. When we talk about purpose, we're not just talking about some grand, abstract idea. Purpose is practical. It's about how you spend your time, your energy, your attention. Are you building something meaningful? Are you making other people's lives better? Are you creating memories, love, and impact that will ripple into the future? These are the questions that matter. And here's the thing: you don't have to have it all figured out. None of us do. But what you can do is start. Start by asking yourself, what do I want my life to stand for? Do you want to be remembered as someone who contributed something meaningful, or as someone who just drifted through life? And even more importantly, what do you want to feel in the time you have? Joy? Fulfillment? Connection? Those things don't happen by accident. They happen when you live with intention. Let's go a little deeper. If the universe isn't eternal, and if you're part of it, then it means every choice you make has weight. Think about that. Every word you speak, every action you take, every decision you make, it all matters. It's like a domino effect. Your life touches the lives of others, and their lives touch the lives of even more people. You're part of a chain reaction that started long before you and will continue long after you. But let's not sugarcoat this. Living with purpose isn't always easy. It means making tough choices. It means prioritizing what matters over what's comfortable. It means being honest with yourself about what you want and what you're doing to get there. And sometimes it means failing. But here's the thing, failure isn't the opposite of purpose. It's part of it. Every failure is a step toward growth, a step toward understanding yourself and your place in the universe. Now, let's zoom out one last time. If the universe isn't eternal, then it had a cause. We talked about this earlier, the idea that something timeless, something greater, caused the universe to exist. Whether you call that God, the laws of physics, or something else entirely, the fact remains you're here because of it. And if that cause is intentional, then your existence is intentional too. So here's the big question: what are you going to do with the time you've been given? Are you going to live like your life is an accident, or are you going to live like it's a gift? Are you going to waste your energy chasing things that don't matter, or are you going to focus on what truly does? These are the questions that define a meaningful life. Let me leave you with one final thought. The universe may not be eternal, but that doesn't mean it's meaningless. In fact, it's the opposite. The fact that it had a beginning and that it will one day have an end makes every moment within it valuable. It means your life, right here, right now, is part of a greater story. And the choices you make today have the power to shape that story in ways you can't even imagine. So what's your next move? Are you going to let this truth change you, or are you going to ignore it and keep living like nothing matters? The choice is yours, but remember, the universe isn't eternal, and neither are you. So, make it count. Thank you for watching. If this video made you think differently, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. And if you're ready to live with purpose, let me know in the comments below. Your life has meaning, don't waste it. All right, let's take this even further. You've stuck with this video until now, which tells me one thing: you're not just here to passively watch, you're here because this conversation is resonating with something deeper inside you. You know there's more to life than just existing, more than just going through the motions. So let's unpack what all of this really means for you, for me, and for everyone who's trying to make sense of this massive, temporary, mind-blowing thing we call reality. Here's the truth: when we realize the universe isn't eternal, something shifts in the way we see everything. Suddenly, the little things we stress about, money, social status, likes on a post, petty arguments, they shrink in importance. And the big things, the love we give, the impact we make, the legacy we leave, they start to take center stage. Why? Because they're the only things that really matter when you zoom out and see the bigger picture. If the universe had a beginning, it means it's part of a story. And every story has a narrative, a purpose, a direction. This isn't just about the stars and galaxies, it's about you. You're part of that story. The fact that you're here means you have a role to play. The universe, with its incredible complexity, unimaginable size, and finite nature, brought you into existence against impossible odds. You being here isn't random. It's intentional. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, I get it. The universe isn't eternal and my life has meaning. But how do I actually live like that? How do I take this massive idea and apply it to my everyday life? Great question. Let's get practical. First, let's talk about time. You've heard the phrase time is money, but that's wrong. Time is way more valuable than money. You can always make more money, but you can never make more time. Every second you spend is a second you'll never get back. So here's the challenge: if you knew your time was running out, and spoiler alert, it is, how would you spend it? Would you spend it scrolling through your phone, or would you spend it creating memories with the people you love? Would you waste it chasing things that don't fulfill you, or would you use it to pursue something that sets your soul on fire? Here's the uncomfortable truth: most of us live like we have all the time in the world, but we don't. And that's not meant to scare you, it's meant to wake you up. The fact that the universe isn't eternal, and that your time here is limited, is a gift. It's a reminder to prioritize what matters, to stop procrastinating, to stop waiting for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment doesn't exist. The only moment you have is now. Second, let's talk about purpose. A lot of people think finding your purpose is this mystical, complicated process. It's not. Purpose isn't something you find, it's something you create. It's about aligning your actions with your values. It's about asking yourself, what do I care about? What brings me joy? What kind of impact do I want to make? And then building your life around those answers. Here's a practical exercise. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 things that really matter to you. Not what society tells you should matter. Not what your friends or family think you should care about. What you care about. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's your art. Maybe it's helping others. Whatever it is, write it down. Then, for each thing on your list, write 1 action you can take today to prioritize it. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because remember, time is limited. If you don't act now, when will you? Third, let's talk about connection. If the universe isn't eternal, and if we're all part of a finite story, then the connections we make with each other are some of the most meaningful things we have. Think about it. When you look back on your life, what are the moments that stand out? Is it the time you spent working late at the office? Or is it the time you laughed so hard with your friends that you couldn't breathe? Is it the time you spent chasing material things? Or is it the time you held someone you love and felt completely at peace? The relationships you build, the love you give, the kindness you show, those are the things that last. Not in a physical sense, but in the sense that they ripple out into the universe. The way you treat people matters. The way you make people feel matters. You have the power to leave a legacy of love and connection that outlives you. And that's not just meaningful, it's profound. Now, let's bring this full circle. The universe isn't eternal. It had a beginning, and it will have an end. But within that finite timeline, you exist. Against impossible odds, you're here, breathing, thinking, loving, creating. Your existence is a miracle, and because of that, every moment of your life is an opportunity. An opportunity to live with purpose, to love deeply, to create meaning, to leave the world a little better than you found it. But here's the thing, none of this matters if you don't act on it. Knowing the universe isn't eternal, knowing your life has meaning, that's just the starting point. The real transformation happens when you take that knowledge and use it to change the way you live. So here's my final challenge to you. What's one thing you can do today to live more intentionally? To live like your time matters? To live like your life has purpose? Whatever it is, do it. Start small if you have to. But start. Because at the end of the day, the universe isn't eternal, and neither are you. But that's not a reason to despair. It's a reason to live fully, boldly, and intentionally. So go out there and make it count. The universe gave you this moment. What are you going to do with it? If this video left you with more questions, good. That's the point. Keep asking, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep living. Hit that like button if this resonated with you, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Remember, your time is now. Don't waste it.